Content over everything.
You know what I'm gonna say? I would say this guy doesn't care very much about morality, or he doesn't care about other creatures. He's happy to kill as long as it suits his taste buds, which it seems distasteful to me. Maybe it doesn't. But this is as far as we can get. And that's kind of the end of the conversation, if you know what I mean. If you say I can eat this because of my taste buds, I would say that's horrible. Well, that's all I can say.
Actually, no. If you notice in that conversation also, I made a distinction between reason and the natural view.
Right, so
now,
we have to get the reason in. So let's get that in with the evolution and see where we go.
Yeah, now if you bring reason in and you use the issue of morality, I then would have to necessarily ask, okay, on what basis and by what method did you establish that yardstick by which we must judge, apart from having an emotional reaction to a sentient being killed?
Is that not enough?
Why is it enough?
Is it not enough for you to care about other? If you want to have the best well-being, if you want to have these concepts of well-being are not unique to me. You know, there's plenty of ideas throughout human history about utopias. Even theologically, we have heaven, the best of everything, the best possible conditions we can have, and we have hell, the worst possible conditions we can have. So, while we're on this earth, do we want to kind of move towards the best, or do we want to move down towards the worst?
I totally agree.
And personally, it's about well-being. Your whole theology is about it, in a sense. When we have this heaven and hell concept. The yardstick is there. It's there not just in your theology, but you don't even have to have that theology to recognize that there's a certain thing that's the best for us and certain things that are the worst. Pleasure is not by itself, but is the best, and internal suffering is the worst. We can use this as a basic yardstick. Clearly it's not complete, there's other things we have to put into it, but it's a really good place to start, I think. I think we all share these two ends of the spectrum.
I have no disagreement with what you are saying. Sure. 5 minutes, 2 minutes, how do you 8, okay. No, I have no problem with that. But you see, if we take this argument to its logical conclusion, there are a group of people in India who would put masks on their faces. Why do they do that?
I think it's not to inhale bugs or something.
Okay. There are a group of people who will tell you just because plants do not have this necessary element of what we consider to be pain, it doesn't necessarily mean they are not alive. Now, as you can see, there's a huge spectrum of people in the world who have different views of this. The question then therefore arises, and this is the question that I consistently ask, and I require an answer to, is what is that ultimate yardstick by which we will determine whether, number one, another sentient being whom I'm going to kill, to ingest, what yardstick will I use to determine whether I can do that or I cannot do that? Number one. Number two, that does not necessarily mean that I would not care for the animals, despite me having this thought, not care for the animals to the extent that emotionally I feel as though, look, killing this particular sentient being, an animal, is bad. I have not an issue with that. I can think that.
So can we start with that as an axiom?
No. Just before I finish. I have no problem with wanting to start at that position, but that's missing the link that I'm starting with. Look.
Which link?
As I said, if we have got a wide spectrum of people viewing the exchange of living things, in a different view, different way, some people think plants are alive. Some people think, well, put a mask on because you don't want to ingest bugs because you may kill them. They won't wear shoes because they're afraid they might step on them. Now, from that to people who say, look, there's nothing wrong with killing animals to eat. We have got societies who totally live off the land, who will use an animal for their clothing, and that's what I stated in the video. Then it comes to a situation about this moral view you talked about. Are we suggesting now that if they are doing that, our moral position is superior to theirs?
Superior to whose?
To these people who use animals for food, for clothing, etc. So the question then therefore, and that's logically bringing it to its conclusion, if we have got two parties, one us, who are saying, look, we hold this position, and one them, who are saying we use animals for not only food, but for clothing and everything else. If there are two opposing views, then if I can just finish, sorry.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, if there are two opposing views, now I need to know what is the yardstick that I would need to use, which would necessarily have to be independent so that it can address both parties.
Okay, what if we can't find one? Then what do we do?
I'll tell you what. If we can't find one, then you are agreeing with me that the whole thing is totally subjective.
So we should just throw our hands in the air and do nothing about it?
I didn't say that.
Exactly. So there is still a benchmark, isn't there?
Is there?
Yes.
Where?
Did I not come up
Back
with
to
it?
this one. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if I would...
Hold on. Do you disagree that there's a certain thing about ultimate pleasure and ultimate suffering that we all recognize to some extent? Do we?
To be honest with you...
Can we start there?
Yeah, okay, let's start
so
there.
it's there.
I wouldn't...
So if we work towards pleasure for sentient beings...
If I were to ask you, the ultimate pleasure for me is the ingestion of meat, what would you say?
Yeah, but then you're taking away from something
Wait a minute,
else.
we just asked about this, you said.
Right.
Ultimate pleasure, no
okay,
problem.
but it's not just you. It's you and the group.
Aha, now you see, we are coming onto the group. And if we are coming onto the group, then we are going to have to require a yardstick so that the whole group can follow. What is that?
Yeah, we have to work it out by having this discussion.
That's exactly the point, though.
So this is why I'm trying to start with someone simple, and you're kind of going off and there's a bunch of things we don't know. Let's start with what we do know and work from there. Okay. You brought up bugs. You know, there's some obvious things like, should we kill people and eat them? I think you agree with me that no matter how good someone's arm tastes, we probably shouldn't do that. Would you agree with me?
Why not?
So you think it's okay to eat someone's arm?
I didn't say that. I'm asking you now, why? What would be the problem?
For all the reasons that I just came up with. We don't believe
Give me two good reasons.
We don't believe in giving out suffering to other sentient beings because we wouldn't want it ourselves. We don't want to live in a world where people are eating each other's arms. If you have the ability to eat someone's arms, it could be mine next, and I don't want that.
Right.
I don't think anyone here wants it.
Self-preservation.
No, collectively, none of us want that. Do you disagree with that? Do you disagree? Is there anyone here that wants to live in a society where people eat each other's arms?
Sorry, what is your name?
Ken.
Shabbir. You see, Ken.
Do you want to eat someone's arm?
Now, you see, I am asking a reasonable question. But what
I'm giving you a reasonable answer. You want a textbook of A to Z to go through these things, and it'll take us hours. I'm trying to start with the foundation.
All I'm asking you to do is, if I'm going to agree with the foundation, then we both should come to a reasonable conclusion where me and you both can agree, yes, this should be the foundation. Isn't that reasonable?
I think so, yeah.
Right. I am trying to do that. What I am saying is, look, Ken, you have just asked me, or you rather mentioned about humans eating other humans. And I said, what's wrong with that? Now, you have to give me cogent reasons for why you think it is wrong, apart from what I would suggest is an emotional reaction.
It's not an emotional reaction.
If I can just, because
Can you imagine how society would work? This is what I was talking about.
Good.
Okay, what would be the consequences of a society where we are free to eat each other's arms as we like?
I'm so glad you are telling me that.
Right?
Because ultimately...
What would be the consequences of that?
I'll tell you, Ken. I'll tell you. You see, the very question you are asking is basically telling me what I'm telling you. What is that? Even for that, we would need a yardstick.
We would need a yardstick?
Yes, we would.
You can't imagine a society where we eat each other's arms.
Can you imagine?
I'm having a hard time with this. See, this is where I say, if we get to this point where you say, I don't care about other people's arms, I don't care about anyone else in the world, then then I have to walk away and say, okay, that's disturbing, but there's nothing I can say about that.
You see, there is a possibility there are certain things which we may not be aware of. For example, in the Central African Republic, You know the war that was taking place?
Yeah.
One of the generals of one of the groups, he made a promise that when he met the enemies, he will actually eat them.
Yeah.
He did.
Okay.
Do we agree?
We agree that that happened, yeah.
No. Do we agree that that would be fine?
Of course not.
Why not?
For all the reasons that I said.
Again, you see, when you are talking about your reason,
okay, wait a minute.
Let me just finish.
Do you think that was a good
one
thing?
second. No,
you're bringing it up because it must have been horrible.
But here is the point.
Do we want to prevent that?
Ken, this is the point I'm making. That look, what he thought to be correct, you find horrible, disgusting.
Right.
He turns around to you and says, "What is wrong?" You now are going to have to try and reasonably explain why you think it is wrong. He turns around and says, "Look, you are saying that, I'm saying this. Let's come to a reasonable conclusion. Whether we like it or not, Ken, you are going to have to come to that situation where you are going to have an independent yardstick which will be suitable for all parties concerned."
Yeah, there isn't one.
Right.
In
Now,
that
there
case,
we are.
see, this is where you're going. You're going into some cosmic understanding of can that possibly happen? I'm talking about us here on the earth, in our conditions. What are we going to do to make conditions better for ourselves and the group?
Now, do you think...
What can we do to make ourselves...
I agree.
Clearly, that one's an outlier. Going and eating people is... can we not agree?
You see,
now, there are psychopaths in the world, right, who are going to think differently. You have that one. There's a long list of people who have antisocial behavior. What do we do with antisocial behavior?
Here is the point.
What do we do with antisocial behavior?
Here is the point, though. You know what you have...
It's a problem.
No, Ken.
It's a problem for everyone that there's antisocial behavior. I don't think the answer is, I think that might be correct, or maybe we should, that's not how it works.
You see, Ken,
there's antisocial behavior around, and just bringing it up doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want.
Not at all, Ken.
Because the objective facts stand of moving along the continuum to the best possible situation, and the worst possible situation remains. You have just moved down on the scale with your example. Falls completely within everything I've scoped out. You are moving down. You either find that acceptable or you don't. I would think you don't, for the reasons that I said. It's quite common.
Are you answering for me?
It's quite common. Yes.
Why?
It's quite common.
Why are you answering for me?
I'm explaining.
No, you aren't. I just asked you and you said yes.
Sorry?
Okay, Ken. I can agree, but you know what you are saying. Respectfully, I would suggest you are thinking about it from an emotional perspective. What I mean by that is this. If I can just...
I'm looking at it from a practical
Right, no problem.
Are you suggesting that I should throw out these things and I should...
No, I'm not saying that.
Then why are you arguing for eating people's arms?
I'm not arguing.
If you're going to go for some abstract philosophy, you can pretty much say whatever you want.
I was going to respond to what you said, but allow me to finish. You see, you talked about antisocial behavior.
Yeah.
How did you establish it to be antisocial behavior?
Because it moves against the paradigm that I talked about.
Was it as a result of a legal system establishing certain actions to be antisocial?
No.
So on what basis?
We all come to that basis based on things being better for our society or worse for our society.
Now,
some of those things happen to be legal.
Thank you. So you are agreeing with me. You see, but
because we've come along a long way, and it's like murder. It's quite common to know that is not something. That's why it's common to society to be against murder.
I can agree with you.
Against stealing, against lying. It's quite common.
I can agree with you. You see, societally speaking, yes, if a certain society deems it correct and appropriate, to kill animals for eating collectively, follow me through.
I want to correct you. It's not about society deeming it. They could deem it. They could be mistaken. Either it works along towards the best good.
I'm so glad you said that. You see, the paradigm you keep using, and you keep saying, it doesn't necessarily mean.
Yeah, we have to go and check. We have to check. We're constantly rechecking our own laws for this very reason.
Basically, you are telling me exactly what I have been consistently saying. There has to be an independent yardstick. Tell me what that is.
I've given you one. You want an absolute answer.
Oh, wait a minute. If we are able to conceive of the question about an absolute answer, is there a possibility there is an absolute answer?
No, we're working towards.
Is there a possibility?
You can work towards a good answer.
Ken,
I just asked. There might not be an absolute answer in terms of what should everyone do in every single case.
Is there a
might
possibility
not
there
be
is?
an answer. Some things work towards the better good for everyone, and some things
I
work
just
to the
asked
better.
a question, Ken.
What?
What was the answer?
Sorry?
What was my question?
Yeah, if you want to go on and say, I want a textbook
what was my
that
question,
gives me...
Ken? Respectfully.
You said something about an absolute yardstick again.
Right, okay.
I keep giving you a yardstick.
I'll tell
it's
you
just
true.
not as firm as you want. It's a
I'm
general
glad.
guideline, and we have to continue to search, look for information to work with this.
I can
So we
agree.
don't have all the answers, and that's what you want. You want all the answers perfectly, mathematically worked out. And I can't give you that.
That's not a problem.
However,
However,
what I can give you is, do certain actions work better for myself and the group,
Yes.
or do some things worse for myself?
Okay.
and the group? We can definitely work along
that.
that.
But if we look at it in conclusion, if I were to say to you, okay, Ken, the only reason I think you may be against the killing of animals is because you have an emotional view of the situation. If you follow me through, yeah? Because as you said, we are learning, we are able to discern certain things which potentially we may not have been able to hundreds of years ago. I have no issue with that. However, the central point, and this is one I made consistently even last time I spoke about this issue, is that where you have got a world in which we are able to communicate instantly around the world, we have got many societies and groups of people who have no issue at all in killing animals, eating them, using them for their clothes, or using them for whatever purposes. We automatically and logically will come to one conclusion. The conclusion being this, that either we are going to pretend we are more enlightened than these groups of people who do this to animals, or we are going to come to a logical conclusion that, look, it seems like there are two opposing issues here, or opposing parties holding opposing views. Necessarily, logically, reasonably, and rationally, we would have to have a yardstick. Now, what do you say? Absoluteness, I'm saying, look, if we can conceive of the question, is there possibly an answer?
I need to go. I'm going to give a quick 30 seconds and then you can take 30 seconds.
No problem.
Just going back to, what do we say about people who do eat meat, use animals, do whatever they do? Are we more enlightened if we don't do that? And I would suggest that we don't need to throw around labels, but it's the whole thing that I thought was interesting, which you kind of seem to dismiss the whole vegan argument, and when I listened to it, I thought it was quite interesting because it raises our consciousness to think about it. People that are using animals in a certain way think this is normal, that we do. But if we raise our consciousness and think, what am I doing to this animal? What if I were an animal? Are they intelligent? Are they suffering as much as we would suffer if we were in that situation? And if they are, then we shouldn't do it. So they've raised our consciousness to think about it. I mean,
no problem.
I have leather things, I eat meat, I love a good bacon sandwich,
Yes, I know what
I'm
you
not
mean.
meant to be hypocritical, but when I listen to their argument, I'm just like, well, that is a good argument.
Right.
If I'm concerned about sentient beings, then I probably should do something about what we're doing. And that was my only thing. And you seem to kind of put that aside, saying, well, since I don't have the answer in some type of absolute form, then I'm free to dismiss it.
Right.
And I'm saying, I don't think you're free to dismiss it because of what I talked about, moving along the continuum. And it's quite clear that we're moving in a positive way by not eating them. And that's it. Take
your 2 minutes, I'll take another 30. No, I have no problem. You see, when I'm raising an issue, as I said, I want it to be taken to its logical conclusion. Yeah, we can all emotionally say things, rationally we think are rational, but when we investigate them, they don't turn out to be so. Now, my view is a simple one. Can we do both? Can we ensure that animals, when they aren't going to be needed for the purposes of eating, must be looked after nicely? Can we do that? Yes, we can. Can we also have the possibility of allowing human beings who want to ingest meat, but there is also that possibility, logically speaking, that if we are going to consider everything to be sentient, okay, why is it we are stopping only objectively to things we think have got pain receptors?
Yeah, the end point is there's a clear gray area there where you stop.
Wasn't I supposed to?
Yes, sorry.
It's okay, Ken. Yeah, so basically, I agree. But you see, I know that if we take it to its logical conclusion, we are going to have a huge, from A to Z, of people's thoughts, etc. Ultimately, we would need to agree that, look, animals are sentient beings. On the basis of what we know, let's try and move away from ingesting animals.
That's all I'm saying.
No, I agree. Like I was telling you, I can agree with that. But I am then, because I'm thinking, you know, as you said, we are thinking, I'm thinking that one step further. Then, okay, having said all this, who's going to give me an independent yardstick? Yeah. That's where I get stuck.
You'll get, so we can agree that we probably should reduce the harm we're doing to animals, and we also agree that once we move, as we move down the continuum of what is sentient and what is not, we get to a gray area. Of course we do. We do. But we have to try.
I agree.
We have to start.
I agree. The only thing I'm saying is that the gray area has been addressed.
Yeah, we didn't talk too much about I mean, I asked him one thing. I asked him about bees. I said, can we eat honey?
Yes.
Because that's clearly, and what we would say is that what I would personally think that's, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not the same as slaughtering a pig, to me. Sorry?
What was the response?
Oh, he agreed it was a bit of a gray area, but he would, you know, they're fairly strict over there.
I don't eat honey even.
They won't.
I would say so. They're
well,
fairly
it is
strict.
an animal.
Yeah, but there is no harm. The argument was based on the fact that there is harm on the animal.
That's the issue we are just discussing. That see, the yardstick has to be present. Otherwise, we are going to be always in a gray area.
To me, there's certain things that are quite clear, and then there's gray areas.
Yes.
You know, I agree with the basic point, but I went through some of the gray areas with it. You know, about shearing sheep. That doesn't seem to be that big of a deal. There's a symbiotic relationship between humans and sheep, to some domesticated sheep to some extent. Anyway, I need to run. Enjoy the Shabbir. Thank you.
Apologies if anything untoward has been said. Not intended. Just
we
the spirit of conversation. Look after yourself.
Fine on both sides.
Look after yourself. Okay, thank you.
Content over everything from your
Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to I.
Made anything against this. Now there is a police stop them for once, but when Muslims pray, it is a problem we have to deal with it. I believe this is discrimination against Muslims because the Christians are praying and no one stopping them. But when Muslims are praying and worshiping, they are the one who are singled out. I haven't seen the prayers. I have seen them. Where? Have you seen anyone here? Have you seen the people who come and dance and clap under the table?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
According to their beliefs, this is how they pray in their church.